All right. Welcome back to the Local Lens Media Podcast. We are back with another fun-filled episode. I am joined here by my compadre, our elite account executive, nominated for Account Executive / Street Fighter of the Year for the Radio Wayne Awards, Mr. Andrew Botwinick.
And on the other side, my compadre, the director of sales for Walnut Media, Mr. Adam Dobbins, performing inside the Performance Podcast Studios. Andrew Botwinick, Adam Dobbins, and today's episode of The Local Lens is brought to you by Sandpoint Restaurant here in Omaha, just off of 114th and Dodge.
Oh, absolutely delicious. Just recently tried Sandpoint here in Omaha a little bit. You know, it's kind of that East Coast seafood flavor. I had the Connecticut lobster roll. Absolutely mind-blowing. Brussels sprouts with the blue cheese, some bacon crumbles on there. My wife had the swordfish. I mean, it was a good thing she was sitting down because her knees would have buckled. It was so good. I would say as far as atmosphere and as far as price and quality of food, I give it 5 out of 5 stars. So if you haven't been to Sandpoint Restaurant here in Omaha, you're missing out. Go try it out. Some of the best fresh seafood in Omaha.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, they just recently revamped their menu just after Labor Day. A whole new menu, whole new executive chef. Sean Pfeiffer is there now. So they've got a ton of stuff on their menu that you can try out. And the coolest part about Sandpoint, I know you and I know this, Adam, a lot of their seafood that they import actually comes from more than 500 miles away. They're the only place in Omaha that imports the seafood directly from about 500 miles away to give you that New England style East Coast seafood flavor.
Nothing but the best for their Omaha customers. I can tell you when you go in, it feels like with the level of service that you're getting, you're going to think, oh, wow, this is going to be expensive. Then you get the menu and you're like, wow, this is unbelievably reasonable for the quality of food that I'm getting here. Sandpoint Restaurant, take your family. You can go on a date. They're open for lunch, but it's going to become a gem here in Omaha. It's already a gem in my eyes, but if you haven't tried it out, you should definitely make plans this weekend or this coming week to try it out for sure.
It's incredible. Sandpoint Restaurant here in Omaha. Check them out online as well. And Adam, I know we're into episode 4 now. We got plenty of stuff. We just spent the whole last episode talking a little bit more in depth about CNAs. So if you missed that, go back and check that one out first, because we're going to tee up everything on the before and after the CNA of what you can expect. And I know we've got 2 different ends of this. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what you wrote down for your part and what I wrote down for mine.
Yeah. So we're going to go really cover the process of 2 of the hardest parts of the sales process, cold calling and then closing. So those seem to be 2 of the areas where account executives trip up the most. For me, cold calling, I'm kind of nutty about it. I love cold calling. I think it's a lot of fun. I find a challenge in it, and I get excited about it. I think most account executives dread it. It's the least exciting part of their day. They want to put it off as much as possible, but it's the lifeblood of your pipeline. If you're not cold calling on a regular basis, at least spending, I would say, at minimum of 60 to 70% of your day trying to generate new business by effectively cold calling, you're going to start to watch your pipeline dry up. And one of the biggest things that we talk about here, I would say on a minute by minute basis, is how are you going to stand out from the other bad account executives in your industry that are calling on these businesses trying to get a meeting with them? Because essentially what they've done is they've built extra barriers between you, a quality account executive that's going to be putting together a very detailed, sophisticated marketing plan to help grow their business, and between you and them. And that bad account executive is going in with a sloppy, basic radio plan, maybe a digital proposal they know nothing about. They don't know that it fits your business. And a lot of these businesses, probably most, have either been burned by a radio account executive, a digital account executive. They have a bad taste in their mouth. So for the good account executives, you have to not only do a great job, you have to overcome all the bad work that was done in front of you and give them a compelling enough of a reason to want to meet with you. I know, Andrew, the biggest thing that we do, that we focus on, is don't even pick up the phone if you don't have an idea, or like you like to say all the time, a valid business reason. If you can give them an idea that you have on the phone, and you don't want to give them too much, give them a little taste, just a little bit of an idea of what you're thinking that we're going to be able to bring to the table to show them that, hey, we're ready to take your business to the next level. We've been talking about you guys, and we think we got something cooked up that you're going to want to hear about. When does it work? When's the best time for us to come in to be able to show you what we've been thinking about?
The best thing that you can do when you're making a cold call, and this is something that I heard early in my career, the point of a cold call is not to pitch them over the phone. It's not to say, we want to talk to you about this radio schedule, or we want to talk to you about this digital campaign that we can do, or whatever it may be. It's not to talk about any of that. It's to, like Adam said, give a good, valid business reason. Say, here's how we can maybe potentially help out your business in a way that we found that might be a hole in your current campaign. Or it's just simply, at the end of the day, get a meeting.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's not give me a pitch. It's unless they specifically ask for it, and then maybe you'll have to come up with something. But like Adam said, if you have an idea and it's something just as simple as, we know a way that we can utilize our audience to get more people in the door for you, that's going to help generate more business for them. It's going to help obviously close the sale for you. When's a good time to meet? And if it's as simple as that, it's not a go through and touch and spend 5 minutes on the phone. It's a 60 seconds, kind of an elevator pitch, but a little bit more refined than that, I would say.
Yeah. That's one of the biggest things that account executives trip up on, is just focus on getting the meeting. Because if you can get the meeting, and in my eyes, you're pretty much set. If you can get a meeting and you're an account executive worth your salt, then you're going to be able to go in and close it. But so many AEs, when they're making those calls and they're on the phone, they're overwhelming themselves with 20 different things that they want to talk about. And they want to talk about all their products, all the different things they can do to help that business. And they want to run down this whole entire laundry list of how great we are and all the cool things that we can do. You don't do that in the first call. You do enough to present them the idea that we're going to give them that's really going to help take things to the next level, and just set the appointment. And that seems to be one thing that I've seen people trip up on all the time.
There's a common theme with cold calling and with closing, and actually both of those, it kind of fits right in the middle between the two of them. So I'll kind of gloss over it here and then come back to it later whenever we're talking about closing. But it's to basically, long story short, stop selling radio and digital. And it sounds, obviously, that's not the whole point of what we're doing here, but it's not necessarily to call on a client and say, hey, I want to see if you've got some time to talk about radio. We've got this opportunity coming up with Halloween right down the corner, or Christmas coming up. We think that this radio opportunity would be good for you. Don't pigeonhole yourself into just pitching radio, because if you get the meeting and you just say, we've got an idea to help brand your business or to help increase foot traffic, and you meet with that client and they're super passionate about digital, it might go completely against what you had in your back pocket to pitch them with radio, but now you've got a digital opportunity that you're looking in front of. And if you are, like you said, if you're an account executive worth your salt, you'll throw away that radio proposal that you brought with you, and you'll see how we can build a digital campaign to fit what they're looking to do and fit everything to help them grow their business too.
Well, that's one thing that I've seen a lot, and you have as well, in smaller market radio, is the package pitching. They go in to just pitch them a package, and then they sell them that. And okay, the campaign runs for a couple months and the package is over, and you go back to sell them another package. And the client's like, I just bought a package from you. And it's training bad habits with the clients. We need to have a well-rounded annual marketing campaign that runs all year long. Now, sometimes the frequency is going to go up and down, and we might slow it down during certain times of the year, but you always need to have a presence in the market no matter what. You always have to be at top of mind awareness so that when they're ready to make that decision, you're there. And package selling, to me, the longer that I'm in this industry, the less I like it, the more I'm wanting to move away from it. Now, there's going to be little instances because people love that beautiful, shiny little prepackaged thing. It's easy for them to consume and digest. And like, okay, I can see this. This works. Try to stretch a package into an annual contract or an annual agreement or contract, because that's going to be doing right by the client, doing right by yourself, making your life a lot easier. I feel like in certain markets, account executives and media companies have mistrained the marketing directors into thinking that buying a few packages throughout the year is going to change their business. Then they fall into the rut of like, we've tried radio, it doesn't work. Well, yeah, it didn't work because you bought an appetizer and expected a 3-course meal. That's just not how it works.
Right. And tying everything up with a little bow at the top of it, it goes back to your cold call. If you're pitching them a specific seasonal package, they might be like, oh, okay, well, let's hear you out. Let me go schedule a meeting. You might get maybe one out of maybe 20, 25 people that say yes and set up a meeting that way. But if you go in and you say, we've got an idea that's going to help your business, we've been talking about it, we think this is going to be something you're going to want to hear, you'll at least be able to get 10, 15 minutes when you walk in the door and their undivided attention, because if they're anything like any other business owner, that's their baby. Yeah. They're gratefully going to have you come in and tell them an opportunity that could actually help grow their business. Now, obviously, you have to come up with that. You can't just sell them a whole bed of lies.
Yeah.
But that at least gets you into the door, and then you can come up with that if you don't already have something made up, but you probably should.
Yeah, and we're going to say a million times, it's all about having an idea. And also with that idea, you need to be excited. You need to have passion. If they can feel that from you, then that's going to make a world of difference. Tying into that, you need to be conversational. You need to talk to them like a friend. People like to buy from other people that remind them of their friends. You need to sound like a likable person that they're going to want to do business with. That you don't want to sound like, hey, I got a list of 25 prospects. Even if that might be true, every one of those people that you call need to feel like that they're the only person you're talking to that day, because you have this smoking idea that's going to change their business. And we need to meet tomorrow, if not today, to talk about it, because it's going to change the landscape of everything. It can't sound like, hey, John G. Business. I'm calling here today from Walnut Media and wanted to see what you were doing for your radio advertising and wanted to learn about your business. Like, I'd hang up on you, bud. Like, that's bad. And there's a lot of account executives that are out there doing that right now. It needs to be Mr. John G. Business. I was talking to Andrew over here. We're at Walnut Media and Boomer Radio. We have an idea that we are thrilled about, that we think that's really going to change the landscape of your business. I think it's something you really, really are going to want to hear about. What do you have going on tomorrow at 1:00? We need to come by and show you about this. This is something that you really want to hear about. That right there is excitement. That right there from a business owner. And I'm not saying that's the only way to do it. There's not one way to skin a cat, but you need to have an idea and come to the phone call or the individual personal meeting with excitement. And like, hey guys, we need to do this right now. Have a sense of urgency. There's a difference between having a sense of urgency and being pushy.
When I make cold calls, I do the exact same thing. I'll sit down, and before I have a list, if I have a list in front of me or just a couple businesses I want to call, I will go through each one of them and say, okay, who do I need to ask for if I have that contact already? Why am I calling? For whatever valid business reason it may be. And then what my calendar looks like. Because if I don't know what my calendar looks like, if they go, oh yeah, when's a good time to meet with you? And you go, oh, well, let me check my calendar real quick. It makes it seem like you weren't even prepared for that.
Yeah.
Within reason, if they go, oh, well, I can't do Tuesday at 3, how about Thursday at 4?
Yeah.
That's obviously, you can go back and be like, oh, let me check real quick. But you should have a time or two that you can just rattle off that is, this time works for me. Does this work for you? I can stop by for 10 minutes, show you what I've got, and we can go from there.
You need to be prepared with that. That's a little bit of that pre-work with, spending 5 or 6 minutes doing some research on that business. Don't spend all day. Don't do the paralysis by analysis. You need to do enough to be dangerous and be able to have a little bit of an idea ready. Along with that, tying into the calendar, what we need to remember too is we need to rewire the way we think a little bit about this. Slow kills deals, okay? That is something that we need to remember as account executives. Slow kills deals. What you need to do after you are ready to make that appointment and you've presented that case to that client and they're ready to meet with you, the default always seems to be, okay, what do you have available this time next week? Why does it always have to be a week out? That's just another week for the client to think about, okay, well, I have a tight budget. I don't know if I should spend money on this. And just to come up with reasons why they shouldn't meet with you again. You need to capitalize while the iron's hot. Have the meeting while they're still excited. If you can get the meeting that day, go that day. Go the next day. Schedule it the very following day. Try to get it as soon as possible because you have this idea that the time is of the essence. We need to get moving on this. And I used to be a victim of that too. I used to be like, hey, let's get this on the schedule for next week. I'm going to throw this baby in my pipeline. We'll get her in there. And then when you go in a week later, you notice like, okay, if you think back in your head, how excited were clients after I met with them one day after the cold call or a full week? they're a lot more excited, engaged, and locked in one day after than a whole week.
Right. And we had another member of our leadership that had this exact quote. I don't know if it's exactly correct, but after every single day that passes since you meet with them, 10% of that retention goes away.
Yeah.
So if you wait a full week, nearly 70 to 75% of what you had talked about in that CNA or that proposal meeting has just gone through the window. You may remember, okay, well, they've got some radio opportunity or some digital opportunity that's going to help us bring in business, but all the details and how passionate you were and every little thing, they may remember a spec spot that you showed them that hopefully you have learned to do. But there's a few things they may have remembered, but they don't remember the whole kit and caboodle of what you were pitching them and how it works cohesively. And like Adam said, being able to have, okay, well, we meet on Monday. What does your Wednesday look like? And it'd give you a day or two, and then we can come back and circle back to it instead of going on a Monday to meet with someone and saying, well, let's look back at next Monday. Where is the same 2:00 time for you on Monday work? Let's plan for that.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to put a little bit of urgency on it. We have this idea. We thought of you first for it, but we have some other clients that other account executives are wanting to pitch this to. I wanted you to be the first one to be able to hear it, though. That right there is going to create urgency, because a lot of these ideas that you're going to come up with, if they don't fit that client, you probably have a few more in your back pocket that they would be really good for. But you always have that one or two that are the first ones you think of that you're like, okay, this is absolutely crazy if you don't do this. Tying off into the cold calling aspect of it, rounding it out, touching base on some of the high points. When you're cold calling, again, do a little bit of research and know what you're talking about. Have an idea, have energy, okay? Have passion in your voice, have a sense of urgency when that next appointment's going to be set. Do not act like you're calling from a call center and that you're just calling down a list just to check a box. They can hear that over the phone.
Yep.
Remember, when you're making that call, think about there was 20 other account executives from other media companies across the city and the state that have probably called this business owner or marketing director that month, and you need to stand out. There's something you have to do to stand out, to be different from them. You have to have an idea. You have to have excitement, because if not, you're going to fall right into the pit with the rest of the account executives that failed.
And that actually is a good segue. If we're good on cold calling, I can actually segue that perfectly into getting the close and the art of closing. It goes back to what I was saying earlier with, you need to, as an account executive, stop selling radio, stop selling digital. It sounds like that's not what we're doing, counterproductive with what we're wanting to do, but you need to get out of the mindset of, let me show you this radio opportunity. Let me show you this digital opportunity. We've got this radio station, this digital tactic that 90% of other digital agencies or companies have. What you need to do, and I'm going to steal your quote because you say this all the time, Adam, you need to not sell, you need to solve. It's something as simple as a client that says in a CNA, we're having a hard time getting people in the door. We need additional foot traffic. Boom. That's what your proposal should be titled. Whenever you meet with them, it shouldn't be titled marketing proposal for blah, blah, blah. It should be how we can get people in the door and sitting in your seats within a month or within whatever time frame you're wanting to have it as. And then when you show it to them, you'll reference back to it and say, remember, I think last week you mentioned that this was a problem. Is that still a problem for you? And if they say yes, which they should, because it was a day or two before, whenever, like Adam said, you schedule those in, that you should be able to immediately pivot from that and say, this is how we're going to help you solve that problem, instead of just saying, well, we've got a radio station that might be a good fit for you.
Yeah. What we had talked about earlier today, it's something kind of called a power statement. And you're not really selling the product yourself. You're selling what it can do for the client. They don't care about the product necessarily. They want to know more about what the product's going to do. And that's what we need to focus on, the solving, not selling. You need to solve. People don't love to be sold, but they love to buy.
Yep.
And that's something that you need to remember. So, and you do that by solving a problem and coming across with that power statement. That power statement would be something like, okay, if we're talking to a client, we're not going to sit there and talk about, for instance, like one of our stations, Bluffs Country, and talk about how great Bluffs Country is and all about who's on air and how great of a station it is in the format. What we're going to do is, with our power statement with that specific station, you need to think about, okay, what special things does this station bring to the table? What demographics is it going to be able to hit for this client? How does it make it different? So with us, Bluffs Country, it's the only local radio station in Council Bluffs. It's their local news source, their local sports source. We're live and local almost the entire day on that station.
Yeah.
You're going into a community that had a radio station for almost 50 years. Now they have their own local source. With Council Bluffs, anybody that knows people from Council Bluffs, they have a chip on their shoulder with watching Omaha news. They have to watch 27 minutes of Omaha news to get a blurb on Council Bluffs. You don't have to do that anymore with Bluffs Country. That's your local radio station playing. Again, we did a survey with that station with the whole entire city to find out what genre of music was the most listened to music in that whole entire city. That's the format of the station. That is the most custom fit radio station that a market could ever have. And pitching it like that for the power of what it is, the power statement, what it's going to be able to do for those Council Bluffs businesses, they're going to be able to send out invitations to their party, whatever that may be, to every single listener in Council Bluffs. That is word of mouth on steroids.
Yeah, exactly. It'll also be just a really good way to be able to differentiate yourself from the other 20 to 25, 29 reps that stop by and say, well, I've got this station. It could be a good fit. It focuses on sports talk or whatever it may be, classic rock or oldies or news talk, whatever it is. They're not selling the actual solution to a problem to someone. You're pitching a station. That's exactly what it is. And we'll go into the first of the few different options for closing that I had. We'll kind of gloss over them really quickly.
All right.
The first one, I know this one's your favorite, so we'll spend a little bit more time with this, but it's the assumptive close.
Oh, yeah.
I know you use this one more than anybody else, but for good reason. It's something where if you've built up that relationship and that credibility, this is something you can go very, very far with.
Yeah. And so, Andrew, you're the client. And one of the things I love to do with an assumptive close is I would say, Andrew, I know you're going to love this idea. This is something that is absolutely custom fit to you. I know you probably wanted to do this, but I know that I needed to get your approval first. So here it is, and just go ahead and sign. Let me know whenever you're ready to get started, because this one's a no-brainer. And typically, you can't assumptive close on something that's not a no-brainer. I feel like a lot of the things we pitch to clients, it's like, this is an absolute no-brainer. Well, you need to be sure that it is. But I love assumptive closing. I feel like that, it has a high success rate if it's done properly.
Right.
But I go into every single client meeting and proposal, I'm assuming that we are going to close it. So for me, an assumptive close is a genuine close.
And if you've done your CNA correctly, it'll check every box that they said is, hey, I know you said that branding was a big issue for you. We've tailor-made this to fit, to exactly mold to what you said in the CNA was your biggest problem.
Yep.
We've set it up that way. And like you said, if this is something where I think you're going to say yes to, I just need you to let me know.
Yeah. And, like Andrew said too, go down the list and say, is there anything here I missed? This is what we talked about. Okay. When do you want to get started? Not do you want to get started, when? I know that we have a little bit of limited inventory right now on our station. I think I can get you fit in, but we need to know when you want to get started, because we need to get this message out to our listeners right away.
That last note that you had actually is a good segue into the next close that I had on here, the scarcity close. It's it goes in a line with FOMO, fear of missing out.
Standing room only.
Yeah, it's one where you can kind of tee it up in a way to say, well, we only have X many available. I know there's a few more that are out there. We've got some other account executives that are pitching the same thing, but I really think this is a good opportunity for you. Do you want me to hold this spot for you, or because we only do agreements, we don't do contracts.
Yeah.
Is there something that I can do to maybe make this something that you want to move forward with?
I know that we have multiple clients that we've worked together to help. And again, we've told them, hey, this is a singular opportunity that would be perfect for you guys. And there's only one available, and it's getting shopped around out there, and they have to talk about it as an ownership group. And by the time they've gotten back to us, it's already sold and it's gone. That is the best way to train a client to make quicker decisions, because it's a fact. It's not, something that we're pulling the wool over their eyes. A lot of these things that we're selling, there's limited availability. And with business owners, they have so much going on. Their lives are crazy. Again, there's a difference between being pushy and pushy and persistence. We want to be patiently persistent, and we need to be able to create a little bit of a sense of urgency with our clients so that they're going to make those decisions a little bit quicker so we can get them going. Because at the end of the day, as much as we think that this marketing proposal that's going to make them more money and going to help their business be profitable, as much as we think this should be their number one priority, they got about 50,000 other things in the hopper that they're worried about. So we need to do a little bit more on our end to help push that decision across the finish line a little faster.
And the next one I had on here actually is one that I don't think I've ever heard it referred to as this, but it makes sense the way it's positioned. It's the puppy dog close. Have you ever heard of that one?
No, I haven't.
So the premise of it is basically, and I've done this without even realizing I'm doing this. It's if you go to an adoption center and they say, instead of adopting this dog because it's a huge commitment, why don't you take the dog home for a day or two? Try it out. You're either going to really love that dog or you are not going to like that dog. Oh. And it's a smaller window of, you try it out for a month, maybe 2 months. And those that really get behind it, and if you're proven results and you stand behind whatever you are selling and pitching them, you're going to make huge dividends super, super early. But if it doesn't work, then there's no extra added pressure. You can go along your different ways. We've done this a few times for a few people, and it has actually worked out, especially if you've done the time on the back end as an AE to actually build the campaign completely custom to what they're looking for.
Yeah.
You don't even need to have that as a puppy dog close, because at the end of the day, they're taking that dog home and they are going to have that dog for the rest of their life.
I mean, we've done that approach multiple times. I've never heard it called that
Me
before.
neither.
How horrible for the dog, though, in real life. Like, you're going to take the dog back? Like,
no, people don't.
Yeah,
people don't.
It's just like, that's a commitment, man. That's a life. You know?
Right.
But I know that it's just a name, but I was just like, never heard of it called like that before. But me, I guess I refer to it as a test drive sometimes. But
that's what it is. Yeah. I've heard it referred to as the test drive close, basically.
Yeah. Okay. But I've never heard that one before, but I love it.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And the last one I'll kind of go over here, we've kind of already touched on this one. It's the summary close. It's just kind of going through everything after you get done with the proposal. And you're saying, okay, well, is branding still a huge priority for you guys, or is getting people in the door foot traffic wise a huge priority? Here's how we're going to plan on tackling this. Here's how this will coincide with this and how they work cohesively together. When do we want to get started on this? And going over everything again. That way, if you've spent a whole hour or 45 minutes on the actual proposal, people are going to forget what's on that first slide. That very first slide is going to get glossed through. They're going to speed all the way to the end to look at the numbers and not go through slide by slide, page by page. And you're going to have to do your job as an AE to go back and summarize everything. That way, the client also knows what results they should be expecting.
I wish I would have had a podcast like this I could have followed when I was an account executive with all these great tips. Is that the last one?
That was the last one that I had. I had another one, but we've kind of already hit over that one as well too.
Okay. And a big part of this too, guys, that we talk about, spec, spots, sell. Tell you all the time, we tell the account executives here, you're going into a knife fight with a sword. Do a spec spot. It'll completely change the landscape of the meeting. If you want to close a proposal, have a spec spot ready to go. It might be something that's completely different than what you actually end up doing. That starts to get the blood flowing and gets people excited about hearing their commercial. Like, okay, I'm going to hear that on the radio. That's awesome. How do I get signed up? So I'm telling you, if you're not doing a spec spot right now, you're selling yourself short. That's a huge, huge thing. The other thing that I wanted to talk about before we end today is make sure that, you're being a little bit of an artist as an account executive, and you're painting a picture for what the intended outcome of what this is going to look like. So many clients, when they're talking about, and I know you love this quote that Pat does, so I'm going to let you say it, but you need to paint a picture so they can see what the outcome's going to be. Potential with marketing, there's no solid for sure outcome, but so many clients that we talk to, your prospective clients, when they talk about their budget, it's almost like the way they talk about it is like they're going to put it in a fire pit and burn it. No, you should intend on getting a return and then some on that investment. And that's one thing. You're not donating to your local radio station. That's not what this is. You're investing in your business. If you're not investing in the growth of your business, then it's going to grow a lot slower. Just like you do as you invest in your body and in your health. The healthier you eat, the more you exercise, the better your body's going to perform. It's just like that with your business. The more you invest in it and the more that you market it and put back into it, the better that business is going to perform. And, you know, our leader always tells us this quote all the time. Do you want to say it?
See, I honestly, I think I'm blanking on the quote.
Would spend any.
Oh, yeah. I know that one.
You
Any reasonable business owner would spend any reasonable amount of money to help their business.
Exactly. So think about it from a business owner's point of view. If you're going to spend $10,000 a month on a marketing campaign and it's intended to bring you in $15,000 a month, why would you not do it? You know, it makes no sense not to. And any dollar amount, if you're doing your marketing campaign effectively, you know, if you're not spending at least a couple $1,000s a month, you know, you're not playing at the level that you probably need to get results. If you're under that area and spending less than $1,000 a month, you know, you're going to get a little bit of exposure. You're going to get a few people out there. But again, when you're down below that $500 mark, you know, we always hear people say you'd be better off taking your spouse out to a really nice meal than developing and implementing a strategic marketing plan, because you got to be able to have, you know, people have level 10 expectations, but a level 3 budget.
The way that you should look at marketing, and I'll kind of go through this quickly because I know we're short on time. The way you should be looking at your marketing budget if you're a business owner, or if you're an AE, how you should be presenting it is how you would come to dinner for Thanksgiving. You've got your big entree of your turkey dinner, and you've got all these different sides. The different sides are the add-ons. Those are your $500 spends on a seasonal package or something small. But you really should have the big meat and potatoes of the meal is the turkey dinner, the $2,000-$3,000 endorsement or digital component of it. And whatever it may be, you've got to have a meal. Otherwise, you've just got a ton of little cranberry sauce, a little bit of mashed potatoes, and Brussels sprouts, or whatever it may be that you're bringing to your Thanksgiving dinner. But if you've got all those sides and you don't have the actual meat and potatoes of the meal, it's not a Thanksgiving meal. And as far as marketing goes, it's not a marketing plan. It's an appetizer or a dessert. And if you're not getting full off that.
God, I love that analogy. It's so good. That's such a good one. I remember when you told me that one back when we first met. I'm like, ooh, that's gold. All right, guys, we need to get going. We are out of time for the latest episode of the Local Lens Media Podcast. Andrew and myself will be out next week. We're going to be in beautiful, tropical Cincinnati, Ohio for the Radio Master Sales Summit and the Radio Wayne Awards. And I'm hoping to see my guy here come home with some hardware.
Likewise. I know we're both up for nominations this year nationally, so it'll be a lot of fun.
We're just a couple of young pups going up against some very...
some hard hitters.
Yeah, some very tenured hard hitters. So we might be a little out of our league on that one, but we're really excited to be there. So guys, we'll see you next time. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, rate the podcast, and share it out and let your friends know so we can get in front of other awesome professionals just like you. We'll talk to you soon, guys. And remember, you need to be known before you're needed.